Word from the Associated Press that Japanese authorities may spray water from military helicopters to try to help cool these overheating fuel rods in Japan we're just learning about. Experts are calling the Japanese nuclear crisis the worst since Chernobyl, the second worst in history. Now that a third explosion happened at the Fukushima Daiichi plant, that has caused a dangerous new emergency. This new explosion and fire at reactor number 4 is a lot more serious than the explosions that you've heard about that initially rocked reactors 1 and 3. The first two blasts blew apart those sort of rectangular buildings you see there that house the reactors. This new explosion took place within the outer wall of the reactor itself, basically inside the room within that house, and that sparked a fire that caused radioactivity to be released directly into the atmosphere. There is also concern that the water used to cool Unit 4's fuel rods could heat to a boil. That means it could evaporate, which ultimately would leave the rods exposed. We are joined now live by the Discovery Channel's Eitan Edwards. He is also the author of the book Preparedness Now. I appreciate your coming in to visit with us.
Morning.
I want to get a sense, if I can, from you. There are reports now of radiation levels in Tokyo that are, and this is in Tokyo,
right,
that are 10 times normal levels. So as we speak about this, well, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is that when you say like 10 times normal levels, what we want to do is to not create a panic, because the normal levels are very, very low, and it's low-level radiation. Now, so there's a process called radiation hormesis that is like exposure to low-level radiation for long periods. We don't have to worry about that yet, but it's getting bad.
But as we get closer to it, fine, 10 times may not be
10
something,
times isn't, yeah,
but 100 times and more in the area 12, 15 miles out from the actual sites. So the question, we speak a lot about radiation exposure, about radiation sickness. I posed to you, what is that? What is the impact of radiation? How long can you handle some of this, and what are the symptoms?
Well, one of the things is that when you're exposed to radiation, first of all, it's a cumulative thing. So the longer that you're exposed to a source, the worse it is. And the way that we used to measure it was in REMS, and now it's Rontgens, basically. So when you're exposed to a certain amount of radiation for a long period of time, it's going to do damage to the tissue. It's going to do damage to the cells. And it particularly hits the GI tract. So you're going to have really, really bad, serious damage to the GI tract. A lot of pain, a lot of cramping, a lot of diarrhea, a lot of vomiting.
This correlates to cancers down the road?
Cancers down the road, yes. Cancers down the road. So what you want to do in a nuclear emergency is to not expose yourself to the radioactive material. That may be unleashed in the event we have a complete meltdown.
You're going to show us, Eitan, in a second, some of the devices that people there can use and that people here can be prepared to have nearby if necessary, right, in case of a disaster in the future. But I want to ask you one thing that confused a lot of people. And literally on the street, someone asked me, if this is so bad, why are the people who are the victims, the people who are nearby, washing off with soap and water? Can radiation be removed with soap and water?
No, it's not so much the radiation, it's the particulate that they're washing off. And the problem is that, people have misconceptions about what radiation is, what radioactive fallout and material and particulate is. So people have to kind of distinguish the difference between a source that emits radiation and material that is radioactive that may get on the clothes and your fabric and the fibrous material that your fabric's made, that the clothing is made out of. So that's the problem. People have to know.
You brought some props to demonstrate, so explain to us what these do.
Okay, now essentially here you have a partial face, 3M partial face respirator N100 class, which is something that this is basically a respirator that is it's a portable HEPA filter for the most part. An N100 basically means that it filters almost 99.99% of all of the different particulate. I think that about above 2 microns in size.
So I'm confused what words like microns mean.
Okay, what that basically means is very, very tiny particles. You'd be able to put this over your face and you'd be able to kind of protect your respiratory system from the inhalation of radioactive material.
The important part, I suspect, is this, because it presses against the skin so nothing comes in the sides.
This seals it against your face so that nothing gets in the sides. You need this to protect your respiratory system from the inhalation of radioactive material.
You brought this as well.
This is the potassium iodide and iodate. I use iodate, but this is potassium iodide. This is a thyroid blocker. One of the byproducts of nuclear fission is radioactive iodine, and that's one of the things that you don't want to get absorbed into your system, and it attacks the thyroid. It produces a lot of damage. So what radioactive iodide and iodate does is it actually protects the thyroid. So you've got to do that, because if you don't, then you're going to have really, really serious radiation.
Eitan, I fear we're going to leave it there for you for now, but I appreciate your time and you're talking to us. I know our teams there in Tokyo are preparing with these things in case there is need for it as well. We appreciate your explanation.
Thank you.
All right, Eitan, thanks for visiting. The Discovery